Let's bring up our next storyteller, Jenny.
Bueno, buenísimo. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I have a real special story for you this evening. It's actually a story about migration, but also about resilience. And it's a really special story for me because it's actually the story of the author of a series of books that actually changed my life. And I would love to share it with you. This author is very much an undiscovered author. In fact, there are very few copies of his books around, which is why I wanted to honor him tonight by sharing with you a little bit about his life. The first book of his that I ever read was titled Nosotros los Migrantes, also We the Migrants in English. In With the Migrants, he tells his story of life from when he was a little boy and how he just migrated for a better life. Let me tell you a bit more about the context that he found himself in. I want you to think for a moment of all the different factors that a child needs to be set up for success from an early age. I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about food. I'm talking about a roof over your head. I'm talking about running water, clothes and shoes. All of those things, all of those elements. The author talks in this book about how he was set up for failure from the beginning. He was born in a very impoverished town in the state of Jalisco in Mexico. He was the son of two farmers, and they were farmers not because they loved farming, but because it was the only means for making a living over there. He was also the oldest of all his siblings, so it was his duty to help his parents provide for his siblings, and not just helping in the farm, but also making sure that there was food on the table. They lived in very dire poverty. In fact, they had to go a couple towns over just to get food or medical attention or services like that. Their situation got so bad that at some point they fell into debt. But I'm not talking about financial debt with money. They were struggling with hunger so harshly that they found themselves in a position where they had to ask families for food. So they were in food debt. They owed meals to other people. So that was kind of the drop that spilled the bucket, sort of made the author realize that if he wants better for his family and if he wants better for himself, this village is not it. He had to get out of there. Especially because there was a point as he was growing up that he had this realization about himself, that he wanted to do better for himself. And there was this spark, a spark in him that became a fire, a deep desire to become a writer and a historian. But in order to be a historian, you need to know how to read, which he didn't. And in order to be a writer, you also need to know how to write, which he didn't. All of this because he didn't have access to school. He only went to school till second grade. One day, he met his cousins who had left the small town for the big city, a big city in the north of Mexico called Monterrey. These cousins left with the same purpose, finding a better quality of life. And they came back very excited to share how well they had done. And the author talks about how this was such a spark of hope for him because he saw them wearing shoes. So for the first time, he found an opportunity, a door, thanks to his cousins. So that's where he wanted to go. He wanted to go to the big city. get lucky, and do better. But he found himself at a crossroads. Leaving to the city would mean being able to provide for his family, but it would also mean that he wouldn't know when he would see them again. So he carried with him a very deep sorrow of saving his family from starvation and not having any certainty of when he was going to encounter them again. Still, he left for the big city, and he did everything he could to make money and send it back to his family. He didn't have a profession. He was a farmer, and this is a big city, so there are no farms. So he made the best of what he could. He became a truck driver. He became a fruit seller on the market, you name it, all of these different little jobs that he could. He taught himself how to write, and he taught himself how to read. And I'm really happy to share with you that he indeed fulfilled his dream. He became a published author, and he has published about 12 books so far about his genealogy work, his historian work. He married, he had children, and he is now a very well awarded and recognized author in Mexico. So he made his dream come true. This author's name is Esteban Valdes, a man who I deeply admire and who I have the honor to call my grandfather. When I read his books, my life changed completely because it helped me learn a lot about where we came from and how his wildest dreams, we were standing on his shoulders, but he had to pay a really big price, leaving his family behind, and to live with the sorrow of migrating to the big city and not knowing when he was going to see them again. But whenever I would speak to him about his books, he would tell me it was all about the principle of whatever it takes. Whatever it took to get his siblings out of starvation, whatever it took to support his parents, to get him out of poverty, get him out of that dire situation, to put shoes in their feet, to put clothes in their bodies, to fulfill his dream of being a historian after being an illiterate man. It's whatever it takes. And it became about whatever it takes when it came to my time of figuring out if I should go to school or not in terms of pursuing college. We don't come from a family of academia. We don't come from a family that had the opportunity for school. So at the time, my grandma's dream of becoming a historian felt delusional. You know, they came from a very poor village. How can your priority be being a writer? But I so thank God that my grandfather was delusional like that, because it allowed us to be who we are, and it allowed him to entertain my dreams of going to school and become the first generation college student in my family. So when it came to deciding about staying in Mexico or leaving behind my family, my country, to pursue education, my grandfather said, it's whatever it takes to fulfill your dream. Today, I want you to think about your migrant neighbors, folks who you interact with on a daily basis. And think about all the different things that they're trying to do for their family, and it's all whatever it takes. They're all trying to be here to provide a better family, a better life for their families, to provide food on their tables. They are the Esteban to their kids. Today, I invite you to show that kindness and that grace and compassion that I wish my grandfather had seen when he was trying really hard. I am really happy to share with you that Esteban will be 88 years old in September. He unfortunately is unable to write anymore because of Parkinson's disease, but he still reads the newspapers every morning, and to this day, he does not need glasses to read any of the words. Whatever it takes. Thank you.